Hello YouTube, it's been a while and I haven't gone away or done anything. I have been here the whole time designing this. Now this is the 737 single seat shell. It's completely 3D printed. It has taken 3 months. It's pretty much taken the 3 months that YouTube told me I've been away to design this thing non-stop. It's a very complicated design, as in there are so many pieces, so many angles to get right. But here it is. Now there are two main questions I get asked. How much does it cost? And why not create it from wood? Let's do the first one. How much does it cost? Right now it takes 26 rolls to create all of this. 26 rolls. I use bamboo basic filament. They currently are on sale at £11.99 a go, which means to create this whole shell here is £312. Now that's quite a good price for a complete shell. Bearing in mind that that shell gives you all the complex corners, all the complex cutouts, perfectly like the real aircraft. Second question, why not create it from wood? Well, most of you may have been following me from day one, 10, 11, 12 years ago, and I've created 3 sims from wood. Would be cheaper? Probably not. At nearly £60 a sheet for 18mm MDF, can you imagine how many sheets you need to create this shell? You're going to get through it so quickly. Also, this came about as not a function of creating it from wood, but the difficulty people were having following it from a 2D design. Taking those drawings and creating all these custom angles where each piece has got an angle on each surface, and trying to translate that onto a drawing and then for people to read it, people really struggled with the windows. Now the windows on the 737 are complex anyway because there are so many angles. However, 3D printing solves that. It's like giant Lego blocks. As you can see, they just slot together and then they're held by screws. They're held by screws temporarily, or it may continue that way. They're held by screws, so because this is a prototype, if we need to change this panel here, as you can see this one's got no hole in for the light to go in, I only have to unscrew it, pull it out. Now that sounds simple, but actually you need to take it completely apart, the 3 blocks around it to get that one out. If it was glued together, which would save a lot of screws, there's no way you could do that. You'd have to replace every single part. Now, where are we at? The design is pretty much done. And this is what I've ended up with. I'll give you a close-up in a minute. The design is done. The prototyping is pretty much done. My patrons have now printed and tested the left-hand window assembly, this assembly here. That's almost ready to be published. They're currently working on the side sill, and what they're doing is they're taking my plans, the STLs, they're building it and then reporting back any problems. They haven't even seen or started the overhead yet, and that's because it's still a work in progress. As you can see, I've got this big stick here holding it up, and that's a job that we'll fix in a minute. There's a post that needs to be attached there for that stick to fit in. I say it's a stick, it's a bit of lumber, a bit of timber. Just off the floor here is the windows that we need to put into it as well. Now the windows, they add structural strength. They're the bit that help hold it together and also stops these long spans from sagging down. So the windows are very structurally important in this design. The windows are the only part of the shell that has an inner and outer skin, mainly because there's no wiring that needs to be inserted. There's only wiring in this matte panel light here, or the CB light that shines at the back, and there's going to be a route all the way through for the wires to drop straight through. As I said before, these long spans are supported by the windows themselves, and if I just pull this up close, there you go. This is 5mm, and this is what I recommend, but it's slightly more expensive than the 3mm option that we have here. 3mm works fine. Anything lower than that I wouldn't recommend because you're not going to get the support that we need. So we'll actually fit these today, hopefully, because we are really wanting to get the front one created and made. These are from the prototype. If you've been to the FS weekend, guys, these were the windows out of there. And so the shell is actually designed to take up to 6mm, but 5mm works fine. Kind of the right balance between how expensive it is. Whereas the 3mm, well, it's flexible, but it does do the job. If you get it the right way round. There we go. Fits in without a problem. Let's bring you in closer so you get a good look. So there's the aft window, there's the centre window, and you can just see how perfectly they fit in. We've got some holes in the sill here, and that's we're using these big 8mm bolts that hold them to the lower sidewall. And it goes all the way along. And that's the back of the lower sidewall there. So not only do the Perspex add structural strength, they just enclose the cockpit and make it feel so much more like a real cockpit. You may be wondering why we've gone for this patchwork quilt effect of all the different colours in the whole cockpit. Well, one, it's to get rid of all my filament from 10 odd years ago. I'm still using Amazon Basics, grey and black and other colours, trying to get rid of that because it's old and it really doesn't print well. Some of it just breaks away too easy because it's so old. My preferred filament is Bamboo Basics. It's cheap, it does the job, and you can't even see the layer lines. So once that's filled and painted, it's going to look fantastic. The other reason is that actually the colours, the different colours, show really well on camera. If it was all the grey that it needed to be, or even the blacks, it just moulds into one continuous segment on camera and you can't tell it's 3D printed. So it's really good at showing off on camera. I will then go away. The patrons have approved the window assembly only. That's as far as they've got. We are very close to releasing the windows on the website, both the plastic windows and the actual STL design. In the meantime, my patrons are doing the sidewall, so let's bring you in closer and show you the sidewall. So the sidewall starts here, and this is where the tiller, the oxygen mask, dock holder and cup holder go. Moving back, all the white trim has been removed here, and you've got the bare frames to show on camera. Of course, then we've got the baggage bay floor there, and then finally the aft frame there. Slightly above that, we've got what's called the window sill. That's that big lower section there. Then we've got the chart holder and window opening device there, moving back, and that's the start of the window assembly there. On the outside, you can see the sidewall and all its relevant sections. It's built just like a real aircraft, made of frames that are vertical, and they're either longerons or stringers, depending on their size, all the way along there. Here we can see how the glare wing integrates with the front window to create extra support. So remember, we've got the MIP structure down here. That's created from wood and 3D prints. It's rock solid, and that will make the front section really strong. Now, just like brickwork, or Lego should we say, each part that's 3D printed, I think there's actually 3 sets of parts here that you can't see. So we've got this part here, we've got the sill underneath. There it is, there's the sill, and on top we've got the adapter plates. So they're all stacked like Lego, so there's no join corresponds all the way up. One brick goes there, one brick goes in the center here, and vice versa all the way along. So the strength just keeps getting added and added and added. Moving down, so for the single seat, we've got a full-size window here. And then of course, we've got this short little window here because I wanted the center frame in the exact middle of where it should actually be. So when you're in the captain's seat, you actually get to see exactly what the captain would see. And of course, the right-hand side, the first officer window, is tiny. It's just this little section here, but it makes the shape look correct. And the final part of the show and tell, shall we say, is the overhead. There was only one complicated part of this, and that was these plug windows. Now you can see that even though this shape is quite complex, it's planar, which means everything has a straight side, and it's just got a curve on the outside, on the inside. Very easy to form on Fusion 360. These plug windows were the longest part of this whole structure because there's no planar surfaces and each surface has its own curve. Oh my gosh, did Fusion struggle with that design. It's only 6 pieces, it's really quick to print. I say that, 6 pieces, each print takes 4 hours, but within a day, you've got it. That's there. but it just adds to the shape of the cockpit. It takes the flat surface of the overhead and then it brings it, wraps it round, and of course then we've got all the white paneling to go on the inside here. The forward overhead, now you can see we've got this beautiful, I think it's beautiful anyway, this beautiful 3D printed structure which is going to support all our overhead panels. I can't wait to get started on that section. And this wheel, it's not right now, but it is designed to have some big bolts and bearings in here, so it swings down, and you probably can't see it here, but there are locking plates, massive big locking plates that will lock it into position just like the real thing. So there's one locking plate coming around. There's the second locking plate and the structure of the overhead from the outside. There we go. You can see that the right hand side on the camera right now is all fully complete. The left hand side is not. It's still got all its frames to be put in. So if we move forward, now this is what was one of the more complicated designs. Not really complicated, but it took a bit of brain thinking just to get it all sorted. And you know, with 3D printing, we can create these beautiful joins and curves that in wood are just so complex. There we go. And we're coming down. There's the handle assembly. And it all just joins perfectly together. There we go. And there's the bottom of the plug windows. So you can see we've got the basic design, and it should only grow and get better from this point on. Really excited. Now I can start showing you what we're going to do, how we're going to do it, and start filming it. Now I know it's going to work. So before we get on and start doing other things to this project here, let me show you another sim that I was kind of building in the background, and I am building in the background. In fact, let me bring that new project in over here. This is massive compared to the 737. And of course that project is the A320 shell, and you can see that it's all created from very large sections, but this one has got an internal and external skin. We've got the handle and the front window here, look. At the front there is the dimmer panel for the light that attaches here. Coming around, I think that's a coat hook there. We've got the window opening device there. Underneath we've got to fit all the internal lighting. Here we've got a vent panel which will have ducting, and we've even managed to put the rivets and all the detailing into the tracks. There we go. So coming around, here's the rear of the window. And that's where it stops because I've got to go back and redo the top section of that. The A320 outside looks just as good because it is fully enclosed. There we go. I'll try and show you without it falling over because it's not screwed together. There we go. So let me just move the A320 out of the way because for the time being that has to be pushed to the side so I can get on with the 737. Now I apologise for all the waffling. That really was quite a long show and tell, but that's just to show you where 3 or 4 months of my life has gone into creating this unit. Let's now get this progressed even further and bring you guys along for the ride. The first job I want to get on with is getting this corner supported correctly, because at the moment it's held by this bit of wood and it's very flimsy. Now this is the replacement corner. I'm not sure this is how it's going to stay, but the whole idea is that that gets to go in there. It's a replacement for that. The only difference is it's got a square on there for that piece of wood to sit in properly and hold it at the exact height that we need. Before we can do that, I'm going to add the brass inserts. So let's get that done now. Now that has made a huge difference to the structural strength. It's sturdy things up a lot, and at least now the wood won't slip away and the whole thing to collapse over on one side. So while we were doing this, I was also having the printers create the inner skin. In fact, they're still doing that now, but we're starting to get the inner liner of the cockpit coming in as well. Let me turn you around so you get a better look. So here's the liner around the plug windows, and then it's just 220mm squares coming all the way back. And then we've only got 2 more rows to do, and that's that side done completely. There are lots of accessories that get mounted to this. For the time being, we're just going to create a blank canvas, and then we'll come back and add all the detailing like the vent, the rope ladder, and the bulb holders at the side, so that hasn't got to go in. But there are some various pockets and lights that need to go in here. And you can see the liner from the inside. It's going to look quite good, I think, from the outside. And that leads us nicely to the windows. It's time to get these windows in, which means I've got to put more brass inserts in. That's why there's an extension lead hanging through the cockpit. We'll get the windows in. Once these 2 are in, the side windows, we'll hop onto Fusion, create the DXF for the laser downstairs, and then create the front windows as well, because that should really make it pop. That's all the inserts in. Now time to put some perspex in. This is the 3mm stuff, so it's not as strong, and I'm always putting it in the wrong way. Never mind, it goes that way. There we go. That's the side windows in. Now, because these were from the prototype that I took to FS Weekend, I had them pre-cut. Now we've got to try and get the front window cut, but in fact both front windows. Let's head over to Fusion and I'll show you how I'm going to do that. We're at the computer, and this is pretty much where I've spent the last 4 months of my life, at this computer designing CAD. Not designing CAD, working in CAD to design the 737 shell, and it's in front of me. So let's create the laser files, the DXF files from my CAD files, which then can be used pretty much on any design that I've got on the website. Let's do it. It's quite a simple task. Now, when I say simple, it's normally even simpler than this. It's just that you'll probably see that I've got text in some of these pieces, and that's gonna make things a little bit more awkward. But so we want to create a windscreen to fit into this gap. I'm going to find the upper left corner. I'm going to select the face, and I'm going to push the P for project. There we go. It took a time, but I'm going to select now all the window pieces as we go around. So we're just doing the circumference of the window. There we go. Now this won't form a working part. If I hit OK, that's the projection done. So right now, if I was to extrude this window, like so, you can see that it's going to extrude the text. So if I go +5, we're going to get the text in the window, which is not what we want. It might make it a bit clearer if I select a new component. There we go. It's not. I don't want it to join to the surrounding structure. So I'm going to cancel out of that. I'm just going to right click, drag a rectangle, and then push delete on the text so it removes it. There we go. It's not actually removing it, it's just breaking the links. There we go. Bear in mind, this is just a sketch. So basically what it's done is just sketch the text underneath. So we're going around, we're highlighting it, deleting it. Let's get rid of all that. Yep. Hopefully I didn't select the outer text, the outer boundaries there. Good. And the last one. Delete. I'm going to delete this big circle here, otherwise that'll come out as well. Don't forget, I'm only deleting the sketch, the projected sketch, not the actual circle itself. I'm going to push the E key I want to extrude that center part, and then I want to add all these outer surfaces. Just going to work our way round. There we go. That one's already, is it done? No, it's not. It's just that it's blue. Cool. We're going to push 5 because ideally my perspex wants to be 5mm. We're going to select new component and hit OK. We'll take a good look at it. What has that done here? We've got some strange objects. Find in browser. What's happened there? Should I be worried about them? I should. Right, so we've got some artifacts that have come on at the bottom which shouldn't be there. So what we'll do is we will Control C, Control V, that's copy and paste. I'm going to drag it down. Now because it's a component that we've copied and pasted, any adjustments I make to this windscreen here will affect this windscreen there. Hit OK. There you go, you can see that we've got some extra bits that I really don't want. And there's multiple ways to get rid of this, but I'm hoping if I just select 2 faces and go delete, it gets rid of them. It does. Hit delete. There we go. And finally one more. Delete. So there we go. There's no artifacts hanging over. The next thing I want to do, as you can see that this, if we were to laser out this windscreen right now, it's the exact size of the 3D printed frame. We don't really want that. And what we're going to do is we're going to select the top surface. We're going to push O for outline. And we're going to select the outline. I'm going to go -2. Push the E key. And go -6. That's going to remove 2mm from the outside, so there's plenty of room to play with. Oh, we've got another error there. Again, I'm going to select the 2 surfaces and press delete. You only need to select 2 of the 3. There we go. And that gets rid of all the artifacts. It's slightly smaller so it will fit in the gap nicely. Now, if I go to these holes, we'll see that these holes are brass insert size. Bottom right corner, it says radius 2.9, which is 5.8 diameter. Of course, ideally we want a 4.5mm hole. So we could just push Q. It's going to be the easiest way to do it, I think. 4.5 to 5.8. It's 1.3. 1.3 divided by 2, 6.5. So 0.65. Let's see. 2.25, 4.5. Brilliant. And unfortunately, just to speed things up, I'm going to whiz around and do that now. So it's going to be 0.65. There we go. And I've got to do it to each one. It's easier than creating a sketch. I'm basically just offsetting the face. There we go, and bringing the size down. Right guys, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to select all the faces in one go by holding the control key down. And I reckon that we probably can do this all in one go. That should be it. Press the Q. Yeah, 0.65. Wow, learn something new every day. That was a lot quicker. Well, we know what to do on the next one. There we go. And there's our windscreen. You can see that we've got quite a big gap. Now that gap might actually be a bit too big. We could, if we wanted to, select the corner here, push Q and go 0.5, so it's only 1.5mm bigger, smaller than the gap. Let's have a look. There you go, so that's closed it up. And even on this one, we could go, if you wanted to do it, I'm actually going to leave it at 1.5, but Q and then go 1, let's say, so it's only got 0.5mm gap, which is tiny. There you go, that'd be too small. But I don't want that, I'm going to just press escape and get rid of it. 1.5 is probably more than enough. Find this windscreen here and remove. There we go, don't need 2. what we can do, as you can see, that's basically what Fusion thinks is a solid bit of metal, is steel. So we can push it. Let me just highlight it first. Component, there we go. I'm going to push the A key for appearance. And then we're going to scroll down to plastic. We want transparent. And I prefer the blue one. Yeah, no, it is that one. Okay, we'll go polycarbonate with a. You want to be able to see it. If you set this clear one, you can't even tell it's there. There you go. It's really hard to tell that you've actually got a component. So it's nice just to choose a slightly different colour. There we go. Close. That might be glass I was thinking of that's got a blue tinge. Okay. Same again. Smaller window. You can see that we've got text in there, which is going to complicate things a bit more. But we're going to create a new sketch by pushing P for project. Just going to start in the top left corner here. Wait for Fusion to catch up. It is taking its time, and that's because you can see that W12A here and this red part, I'll show you in a second, W11A, they are very complex shapes hidden behind the forward sketch here. We'll come back to them in a minute, and that's why Fusion's been a bit laggy, because this is not a slow computer. It has got issues though. Right, so once again, let's delete some text. So all we're doing is we're deleting the projection, the sketch, not the actual text from the part. Just got to break up those lines. So still I don't think I've got one correct. There we go. That'll do. It's because I'm at a funny angle. In fact, I probably can just get rid of that outside line, this line here as well. Okay, yet again, Fusion is just having a little think. It's having a real good think. It's going to take forever, isn't it? And this is what slows down this whole CAD design. I mean, Fusion has had some serious hissy moments, and this is probably going to be one of them. Okay, still going. Managed to take a drink of water, and we're still waiting for it just to delete some sketch lines. It hasn't turned blue, so I think I've accidentally deleted something that I shouldn't have. But anyway, just to get that back, what we can do is we can go from the corner there, in case there's these are all joins, remember, so they're splits. So what we can do is we can join all those splits up to make a solid part, hopefully by joining the outer dots. I mean, this is no harder than dot to dot, really. There we go. Ah, it would have been that one there. There you go, it turned blue, which means we can now make a component. Hit finish sketch. E5. There we go. It looks like a window. It is a new component, which is fine. We've got some errors. You can see we've got some massive holes here because it's copied the sketch underneath, or the part underneath, sorry. So let's find this in browser. It'll be right at the bottom. There it is. Make sure we've got the component and not the body, because that means if we copied the body, it would be a separate body and it wouldn't copy any of the changes you made over. So it wants to be a component that we copy, so Control C, Control V. Bodies and components are two different things. And it does take a little while to get your head around it. Certainly when I started Fusion. Right, let's start with the artifacts. In fact, let's start with the holes first. All we've got to do is select the inside surface and hit delete. That'll get rid of it. There we go. Nice and easy. Same for the other big one. It's just data that copied across that we don't want. Then we've got these holes here. And that's, of course, is where that's the join. Because we don't want zero tolerance between the two parts when we 3D print. We want a 0.1 gap between the two to allow for the ridges between the layer lines, really. If you were to create a 3D printed part in CAD without any, with zero tolerance, but normally they don't line up properly. So that's what these are. Selected the two inside surfaces, pushed the delete key, and it went away. It's really that simple.
We've got another one down here. This is a lot smaller. Which might be a little bit trickier to solve. Now, it is a split. There it is. Right, I'm going to be honest with you. I can't zoom in far enough with the mouse. If I had a space mouse, I think you probably could. And I have got one, but I don't know where it is right now. So I'm going to have to cheat. And what I'm going to have to do is create an offset plane. Wait for Fusion to catch up again. Come on, Fusion, you got this. We are going to have to wait 6 years. Oh no, we're not. Okay. I'm going to create an offset plane. So 1mm should do it. So it's off the surface. Hit OK. We've got two options. We can cut a section out and then press delete to get rid of it, or we could add a bit in. And I actually think cutting a section out is going to be easier. Just need to cut it out, make it bigger, so I can grab it in Fusion. But Fusion is really struggling with this design, as you can see. So 34 minutes, let's see how long it takes. As in, it's 1634 hours. And all I want to do is make a plane on top of this part, and it's going to take minutes, I reckon. Yay, it's done it. Okay, so we've got our plane surface. We're going to push the P for project. Going to select that line there, hit OK. Now there should be a split in there. Right in there, if we zoom in, those two components will not be joined. What I'm going to do is I'm going to hit out, and I'm just going to draw a nice big line. There we go. To there, join it back up, hit OK. -9. So we've cut that section out, got rid of that horrible line, and then I'm hoping that we can just select two surfaces, push the delete key, and it puts it back in as one piece. Of course, because it's on a corner, it's not going to let me do that, but what we'll do is we'll try and select all three faces and push the delete key. Yes, there we go. Let's look back at the original and make sure that that has gone in nice. It has. Okay, next up, make those holes smaller. And we know that if we set the first one here, push the Q key, I should be able to now hold down the control key and select all the surfaces in one go. Oh, that's so much easier. Because again, these are going to be 5.8mm holes for the size of the brass inserts into the 3D printed parts. Whew, that was a lot to say. And we just want the M4 screw diameter. In fact, so it's M4, but I'm making them 0.5, so you've got a bit of wiggle room. So it's 4.5 in total. I hope that made sense. There we go. Verbal diarrhea, I think. Okay, so 0.65 in. Enter. There is our piece. We haven't done the offset. Whew. So select the outer face there, push O for offset, or outline. It is offset, sorry, my mistake. I think I said outline before. Select the outside surface, -1.5. There we go. Hit enter. Push the E key on the gap, go -6. That's going to cut the excess off. Check the original. Fits nice, good. Push the A key for appearance. Drag the polycarbonate onto the part. Both of these should change, there we go, because they are the same item. I can then delete the second one because we're finished with it. Remove. And all I've got to do now is create the laser file finally. Now normally these would have been created already, but because I've changed the design so much, these were very different to how they were originally made. I think originally we just had one giant window at the front, but it didn't look right. I'd much prefer for the single seat to have a little window, and for the captain side to look like exactly as the captain would see it. Right, let's create that DXF finally. So I'm going to select the top surface, going to push the P for project. That's going to project all the sketch dimensions onto a surface. There we go. Hit OK. Hit finish. And find in browser. And we will label that as the captain's window. And right click, export DXF, hit OK. Today we want the SS, and then we want 3D printed windows, hopefully into light burn, which is there. Yep, captain's window, that's fine. Hit save. We've done that one. I'm going to select the first officer window. I've just moved it by accident, which is where I do this all the time. There we go. You can pin them, by the way, but I don't bother. So I've selected the window surface. I'm going to push the P for project. Hit OK. Hit finish. Go to the sketch window. Hit first off. Change that to first officer window. Right click on it. Save as DXF or export DXF, sorry, hit OK. And it is into Windows LB, which is light burn for me, by the way. First officer window, that's fine, hit save. Now guys, sorry if I rush through that. It's something I do all the time, and it really is quite simple, but I probably over explained it there. What we're going to do is take this file, in fact the file's already gone off into the cloud, and hopefully the laser machine downstairs will have that file sent to it. Head downstairs, find some perspex, shove it in the machine and get these parts cut. The very first thing we need to do obviously is import the DXFs that we created. So hit the import key and I'm going to navigate to the Windows, light burn, and we'll start with the captain's one. There we go. There it is. Have to make one very important change, is that we're going to cut all the holes out first in black, which is fine. Let's go to cuts, layers, black, yeah, output, there we go, it makes it a bit clearer to see. We're going to set the outline and we're going to change it to red, output, and it really is that simple, it's that quick. Just going to highlight the whole lot. I've missed a hole out there, as you probably saw. There we go. And we're just going to drag it into the corner so we don't waste too much acrylic. And then we're going to go to the material library. I'm going to select 3mm clear, cut, assign to red, assign to black. So it's going to cut the holes first in black, which is good. Then we're going to cut the circumference. Extractor is on. I need to go back to laser and hit start. Away the laser goes. No, it doesn't, because I forgot to arm it. So have to hit stop first, wait for it to travel home. That's what it's doing right now. There we go. Armed. If I hit start, it'll go now. However, let me put you in a place that you can see. That's it done, and hopefully, yeah, it separates the two parts altogether. That makes it much easier. That was a nice clean cut. Not sure if I caught that on camera, but yes, I just got belted by a massive electric shock despite trying to ground myself. Onwards and upwards, eh? Let's see if I can get this the right way round first time. Not a problem. Looks good.
So that's the windows in, all 4 windows. Now it was exceptionally hard to film because the front of the cockpit was actually sat where it needed to be against the wall of the workshop here. However, I think for ease of maintenance and for progressing this shell a bit further, it's going to be so much easier if I keep the blank side, the side that's open because it's only half a cockpit, that half cockpit against the wall, which means that allows me to work at the front and the sides that I need to get to, and also the overhead, because obviously we've got to fit the 737 SS MIP into the front of that system. It's going to be so much easier if that's pointing out. So let me just see if I can move the cockpit around and see what happens, because it's on wheels, but only the main bases. You'll see in a sec. Okay, so that's moved it round by 90 degrees, and I think that's going to be so much easier for filming because I'm not trying to get the camera between the shell and the wall. I think there's nothing left but to give you one final look at what we've done so far. And that brings us to the end of the video. You can see that I've put the MIP in the front of the cockpit, just bunged it in the front to try and give it that extra look before we close the video down. It's a blank canvas, so now that the main design is done, we can start adding the panels, we can start adding all the details. We know that the shape works. This MIP is designed specifically to be mounted exactly at the front there, at that height. So it's just a case of swapping the parts out and putting this in. And of course, because this is a solid square block, that's going to make the rigidity of the shell so much stronger. The only downside I can think of right now is you've still got this annoying post that you can bash into. I think it looks absolutely spectacular on the outside, and from this point on, now I can bring you guys along. We can design the parts on Fusion, we can film it knowing that, well, I think it's going to work. And this whim has finally paid off. My patrons are printing at Mach 10 to try and catch up with me. In fact, I can't get the prototype parts out fast enough to them to be able to test the parts. What they're doing is they're taking the parts, they're building it step by step, and they're telling me if there's a screw hole missing, the screw holes are too big, that part doesn't work, it could be done better. I mean, that's the whole advantage of having a set of test guys that can just sit there, print and play with the parts and get a good final product before we release it to the website. For me, this has been one long slog, but one that I'm absolutely proud of. Guys, until later, sim out.